Neal is back, and we're reacting to the NBA draft, NBA free agency, and some trades. Let's get into foul trouble. I mean, where do we even want to start with the draft? Winners, losers?
Well, I can't believe Bronny James slipped all the way out of the first round.
I'm not going to lie. Around the time the Suns and Denver traded, I was like, should I keep watching or should I recap? But I was like, you know what? I kind of want to just see if Bronny gets drafted because, the Suns were one of the only teams Bronny worked out with. So I was kind of like, ooh, Phoenix trading back is now going to give them the excuse that, okay, well, we didn't draft Bronny at 22, but at 28, guys, come on now.
I'm not going to lie. We picked up number 56 in that trade with Denver, and if Bronny's not there at that point, I'm going to be pissed.
It's 55 is where he's supposed to go, right in front of you guys.
But obviously, Bronny James is not the story of this draft. Yeah, you said winners, losers. Should we just jump into that?
Yeah, does everyone want to give a winner?
Yeah. Let's go down the line. Neal, you're our esteemed guest. Do you have a winner off the top of your head?
I think the easy winner is the Lakers. Dalton Knecht falling all the way to 17 was unreal. The dude is one of the most NBA ready prospects in the draft. The Lakers are probably in the most championship or bust mode again in the NBA, and getting a guy that can shoot, getting a guy that can play off the ball and on the ball, he can rebound, he can pass. I mean, this is a guy that's ready to step in day one, and I don't know if he's ready to start, but he's definitely ready to come off the bench and give you good minutes.
Yeah, I thought the Lakers by far had the best value pick. I mean, just being able to get a guy that is going to be able to play off of LeBron Davis pick and rolls. The Lakers apparently are going to try to run a lot more Davis hub-centered offense under J.J. Redick, so a guy who can take handoffs at the top of the key. A guy who can attack a closeout off a LeBron James drive. I think the only weakness really is defense, but luckily for a guy whose offensive profile screams 6'3" guard, he's actually a forward with size. So I don't know, this seems like a home run pick. This seems like a guy who's going to be able to play in the playoffs for shorter spurts just because of the defensive limitations here in year one. But, I mean, I thought the Lakers absolutely nailed it. This is going to be he can play in any lineup they have.
Yeah, it was really interesting. On the show, they had, I think it was Bobby Marks talking. They were asking, why is Dalton Knecht falling? And basically the only reason that he gave that he was hearing was that Dalton Knecht is 23 years old and these teams near the top of the draft were really looking for young players who could grow. And really, when you look at what the Lakers needed a guy that was ready to play right now, a guy that was a really great shooter, and they got the perfect guy. I think even if they had the 5th pick in this draft, I think Dalton Knecht would have been a perfect fit for this team, because I think offensively, like what you guys laid out, it just doesn't get better for a LeBron James team to have a guy that, I mean, I can see Dalton Knecht, LeBron pick and rolls. We can see how that goes, but obviously the off the catch shooting, the spot up shooting, it's all there for this guy. And he's been through it. This guy started at Northern Colorado, worked his way up to a major program, and then was by all means one of the best scorers in college basketball last season. And I'm sure JJ Redick is absolutely over the moon with this.
Yeah, I mean, I watched probably almost every Tennessee game, and he was a guy that as the season, you got to conference play, and Dalton Knecht had dominated non-conference play, and it kind of felt like I was waiting for him to fall off, and he just never did. And it took the whole season to believe it, and I kind of understand why NBA teams were a little more hesitant, because he is 23. You kind of already know what he is. But again, the Lakers, I was shocked Philly didn't take him. I mean, I think Miami might have been a good fit just because you're trying to win right now.
Yeah, especially considering Miami might lose Caleb Martin. I think being able to replace a guy on the wing would have been huge for them.
Yeah. No, LA to me was a huge winner in this draft.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I feel like in this Lakers system, he's probably not going to average 15, 16, probably going to be averaging closer to 10 points a game if he's getting decent 6-man, 8-man minutes. But, I mean, honestly, could be a guy who finishes top 5 for Rookie of the Year this year.
I was just going to say that. If I was a betting man, I'd throw $100 on Dalton Knecht, just roll of the dice Rookie of the Year. He's definitely going to have the spotlight on him. He's going to have that Lakers bump.
Yeah, and it's funny because, I mean, I definitely think this was a great pick. It feels like JJ's the coach who's hopefully going to tell Rob Pelinka, like, hey, man, surround LeBron with lob threats and shooting and you're golden. Like, just don't overcomplicate it. But no, I mean, I feel like it's really interesting, too. Like, this, like, why contenders don't more consistently draft the older player. Because, like, one draft I always think back to is 2011 is, like, the Heat are 29, the Bulls are 30. The Heat pick Norris Cole. He's a senior, instantly contributes to a championship team. The best, quote unquote, the best pick would have been picking Jimmy Butler. Obviously, Jimmy Butler's significantly way better player than Norris Cole, but Jimmy Butler couldn't play that first year because he was a younger guy. So I don't know. It's interesting. It seems like contenders should be drafting guys who are older, even if you only get 3-4 years out of them, as long as they can contribute right away. It seems like a more useful way to use your draft capital.
I also think it depends on the team specifically. Not like if I have a 9-man rotation or a 10-man rotation, and I know who they are, I have the ability to take a swing on someone who has a higher upside. But the Lakers, you're theoretically contending for a championship, but in practicality you're not. So that's why, to me, it makes more sense for them to take someone older rather than wait on someone like last year. They took Jalen Hood-Schifino and he didn't do anything.
Yeah, and probably doesn't look like he's going to be doing anything going forward, which is a scary thing for the Lakers. That's probably their biggest draft miss in the last, 10 years.
I agree.
But that's a miss that I think that they definitely could afford because they have so many people at the guard position and LeBron James, who's gonna have the ball in his hands more of the time than not anyways. But yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's just like an obvious steal of the draft. James, did you have anybody that you identified that you loved what they did?
Yeah, I like the Spurs.
There we
Picking
go.
up Stephon Castle. We all knew they needed a guard. We didn't know which one it was going to be. I think we mocked Reed Shepherd to them in our draft last week. Reed goes one pick ahead of them. So Castle, not the greatest shooter yet, but the free throw percentage suggests that there's a lot of room to grow as a shooter, which is really awesome. You're getting defense, you're getting passing, and I think just getting really competitive, give a shit guys next to Victor is going to be a huge first step to getting the Spurs back on track. I like that at 8, they're trading back and getting assets. I don't think Dillingham would have been great for the Spurs. I was so confused when they picked Dillingham. I was like, that is not a Spurs player.
Yeah.
But I thought the Spurs did really well to get Castle. This is the real start of the rebuild. I think my only worry for the Spurs is I just don't see how they're going to be in the top 5 or 6 next year, which sucks for them. Because that would really supercharge what could be a special run for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think next year the scoring might be a little tough because, I mean, they've done nothing to indicate that they're moving away from Sohan playing big minutes. Then you've got Castle, who, I mean, I love what he can do on defense. I love what he can do from a rebounding perspective for them. I think Castle and Wemby, a pick and roll defensive combo, could be one of the better pick and roll defensive combos that we have ever seen. Just flat out, that has a lot more probably to do with Wemby than it does to do with Castle. But where the creation, I don't think they really answered the creation question marks that we've had all last season with them. But the defense is just going to be I feel like the Spurs are still going to be a bottom of the league team, but all of their wins are going to be against the best teams in the league who just have not gotten up for the matchup, and Castle punches them in the mouth.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great pick. The only, again, we had talked about the playmaking is really still an issue. Stephon Castle, probably at his best, projects like Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday isn't exactly, Rajon Rondo. So that's why at 8, when they picked Rob, I was like, well, I get the playmaking there, but I thought they should have went Topic if you're going to keep the pick. Because
we wanted to give them Topic.
And it was that would have been incredible. But, you go into next year's draft hoping that you can get a guy there or, get one in free agency. Castle's a great pick for them.
Yeah, I wonder with Topic for them if their kind of thought process was, if Topic can't play this year, we kind of want to build something with Victor and not just throw this monkey wrench in right away. I think they really want to try to figure out, okay, do we have a triangle here with Vassell, Castle, and Victor? And I guess that is the only worry now with Vassell is I don't know if he's going to play the 3. And if Castle isn't really the main playmaker, because I feel like the Spurs really do need to surround Victor with some old school type point, some 90s point guard.
That's why I didn't hate the Dillingham pick when I thought it was still on the Spurs, because I was okay, the one huge question with Dillingham is how he's going to survive on defense. And with Castle and Wemby there, that wouldn't be so much of a problem. But I think pushing that pick along, especially out of this draft, made a lot of sense. Probably made more sense for him.
I feel bad for Rob Dillingham because he pretty much like auditioned to be on the Spurs, and he gets drafted, and then he doesn't get shipped to Minnesota. But he'll have a hell of a role there. But he got traded for like a 7th grader, and it's just like that's tough. That's pretty tough.
It is tough. Patrick, who is your winner?
Yeah, I mean, hey, we were just talking about it. The Minnesota Timberwolves, I love what they did. At the end of the day, with the Dillingham pickup, they got Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon Jr. These are two guys. Dillingham, 97th percentile spot up, 89th pick and roll, 98th percentile catch and shoot. Terrence Shannon, 87th percent in the transition, 80th percentile in spot up, 95th percentile in pick and roll. These are two guys that can just go out there and fill it up, get buckets, create for themselves. And I think that's really what Minnesota was like missing in the playoffs, is another guy that either came off their bench from the perimeter and could create for themselves, or, I mean, in a perfect world, maybe fits somewhere in that starting lineup as an heir apparent to the Mike Conley spot. So, I mean, and you lose 2 picks there. I think it was like a hefty price to pay. But at the end of the day, when those picks convey, Anthony Edwards is only going to be like 29, 30. So, like, you got to think that the Timberwolves are probably still going to be really, really good. And those picks end up being late 20s picks in the draft. So, I mean, I really like the thought process there from the Timberwolves. And it seemed, especially with their cap situation, if there was ever a time to take a swing, it's right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rob makes more sense for them, obviously, than San Antonio. Theoretically, the mentorship of Mike Conley is going to be huge for someone like Rob. They're not similar body types, but they're both smaller guards. Rob needs to put on a little more weight, and they play a little differently. But I think Mike Conley is going to be a really good mentor for teaching Rob Dillingham how to play point guard. And Rob's not going to start this year. I mean, he's just not. Yeah. And neither is Terrence Shannon. I like Rob. Shannon, to me, the problem that I have in Minnesota is he played a lot on the ball in Illinois, like a lot. It was him and Coleman Hawkins pretty much dominating the ball. He's not going to dominate the ball in Minnesota. So as good as his off-ball stats are in college, can he do it for 80% of the time as opposed to 20% in college?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not. I think the thing I'm a little weird about with this Timberwolves trade is I just don't know if he's going to play a lot on this team.
Rob Dillingham?
Yeah.
I think it's a future pick.
Yeah, he might not, but if he's ready, he can. That's the kind of, like, the Timberwolves, they're so loaded anyways. This isn't the year where you need somebody to step into those Conley minutes.
Like,
how would you guys have felt if they drafted Carter there?
I would have liked that way more, personally.
Yeah.
I'm
as a
huge
guy I
Carter
feel like
guy.
can come in and actually, in next year's playoffs, you can see him playing 18 minutes in a playoff game.
Yeah, because I think he profiles similarly to Mike Conley, and he just needs to fill out like the actual point guard aspects of his game rather than just being a scoring guard that goes and flies in for rebounds. Mm-hmm. That's not a bad thing, but like Mike Conley is definitely a good mentor for someone like that too.
I think Carter gives Timberwolves, like, he's a dog on defense, very athletic. The one thing that I think I like about Dillingham over Carter is what the Timberwolves really need from that one spot long term is creation for others. And I think if there's one knock on Devin Carter, it's like, I don't think he is like the quintessential like pure
connector.
Point guard. He's more of a like connector next to like a superstar guard, like I would say like a Devin Booker type, or a guy that has the ball in their hands a lot and can create. So I do agree with you that I think Carter I like in a vacuum as a prospect more, but I do like Dillingham for the Timberwolves.
And the one thing when we compare Rob Dillingham to someone like Bones Highland or Lou Will, I mean, like, as much as these guys are microwave scorers, Lou Will could pass the damn ball. I'm not sure about as much about Bones Highland. They compared him a lot to Darius.
I don't think Bones Highland knows how to pass.
Yeah,
there's no A button on that controller.
they compared him a lot to Darius Garland. That to me is a very ideal comparison. Like I don't see that as much. But if he does develop into Darius Garland, I
think Bones is a low outcome for Rob Dillingham. to be honest.
Yeah. You guys have any losers?
Oh yeah, easy. The Bucks. I don't like when I saw AJ Johnson come off the draft. He's a project player. Milwaukee's trying to win right now. They just fired. They were 30-13. They fired their coach. They swung for the fences with Damian Lillard. And I'm not saying either of these are bad moves, but these aren't bad moves you make trying to win 3 years from now. These are moves you make trying to win right now. AJ Johnson was projected in like the 40s in almost every draft, and then he goes at 23 and. He's just
Tell us a little bit about AJ Johnson. I don't really know anything about AJ Johnson.
And that's also like AJ Johnson is just a super raw prospect, right? He needs to get stronger. He needs to improve his decision making. He needs to improve his shooting.
The stats are rough, I will say.
Like
27% from 3, 35% from the field, 53 free throw.
We talked about
like 2
it.
points a game.
We talked about it a little bit on the pregame or before we started doing this podcast. But I had an issue with the draft coverage where we're in the 20s and a guy like AJ Johnson gets drafted, and they're like, "Wow, the Bucks picked up this amazing prospect. This guy could go under Giannis's tutelage and develop like Giannis did." And it's like I just wish they would be a little bit more like, because I saw Tristan Da Silva. He got drafted at 18. John Hollander used to work with ESPN, used to work with the Spurs. He posted, like, I had him at number 61.
Yeah.
and you're watching the draft live, and they're like, wow, Tristan Da Silva, the size, the shooting. Like, is everybody Michael Jordan? Like, hello?
To that point, so you know how on Tankathon, it has, like, the 2 columns of, like, stat strengths and stat weaknesses? On AJ Johnson, there are 2 stat strengths. It is, he has 2 pluses for his age, which that is literally nothing.
Yeah.
And then 1 plus for assists. And then on the weaknesses, 4 minuses for true shooting, PER, offensive rating, free throw percentage, fouling, effective field goal percentage, defensive rating, 2-point percentage. And then there's multiple 3.
To me, this is like this. It's just like it's such a questionable pick for a team that's trying to win right now. Like, and on top of it, like. He probably is the worst player drafted in the top 30, and arguably was going to be one of the worst players drafted in the top 45. This was like the single worst pick in the draft, like to me so far. Like there were some other questionable ones, but I could talk myself into being like, okay, I get it. Like, in theory, this makes sense. This doesn't make any damn sense to me, like at all.
Yeah, no, that was an odd one. I don't know if this is a loser for the team because I like the pick. Maybe a loser for the player just in their short term. But Devin Carter going to the Kings, I feel like is going to be kind of a logjam of Mitchell, Davion Mitchell, De'Aaron Fox, Herder. It's like I don't know. It seems. Whoops, just dropped my coffee. But I don't know. I feel like it's. I don't know. It's like they're playing really small. It just seems like a weird. I don't know. How do you guys feel about? Like I don't hate the.
Yeah, I don't hate the fit, but as a Devin Carter guy, I was a little disappointed. I'm like, we're just not going to see him. The spot's not there. And I don't know if that means I would assume that the Kings might be making some moves from here. Like, I don't see how there's room for a Davion Mitchell and a Devin Carter or a Keon Ellis. And
a Malik Monk.
Monk just resigned.
Yeah, that's
Herder's there too.
That's the thing. I don't hate the pick in that. I think they picked a good player. I like that for the Kings. I just don't love it for Devin himself in the short term.
Yeah, no, I'm totally there with you.
Yeah, that's tough for Devin Carter. Like the Kings, like you're trying to compete, you go get a guy that's pretty NBA ready, like that.
They could have been a Dalton Connect team.
Oh, absolutely. I thought that made more sense.
Yeah,
I think it totally undercuts their scouting department as well. Like after they kind of hit a home run with Keon Ellis last season, it's like comes out of nowhere, is getting huge minutes for you in the most important games of your season, in those playing games, and looked really kind of good fit there. And then it's like, okay, fuck that guy. Let's draft Devin Carter in your one position of strength, where there was a lot of other guys on the board that I think, even like a Tristan Da Silva, I would have liked there. A Dalton Knecht, like we said, I would have liked there. Any of these big guys, Daron Holmes, Kello Ware, I would have liked there. Even Yves Missy, but not great.
Yeah, another guy who I don't like. I like the pick in terms of I think the team picked a good player, but I don't know if I love it for the player. Is Topic to the Thunder, just because. He's going to miss a year. He's going to then enter this Thunder team where you're at year 4 of Jalen Williams. You've got Shea in his prime. And so his minutes are going to basically just be the Jalen Williams, no Shea minutes because Topic, we know his concern is shooting. So I don't really love him playing off the ball with Shea. So I want him more on the ball when he's playing with J-Dub. So what does that mean? He's going to play 12 minutes a game?
You don't think he'll fill the Josh Giddey role? That's kind of what I anticipate. Like, that's what I anticipated.
But are those minutes available?
The problem is they minimized Josh Giddey at this last season instead of maximize Giddey. And that's what I'm worried with Topic is we're not going to get the best version of Topic playing alongside Shea because I don't think they should take the ball out of Shea's hands. I don't think they should minimize Shea to maximize Topic.
Do you think it would make the Thunder more dangerous to have Shea doing off-ball stuff? Not all the time, but
a little more?
10% more of the time.
I guess, yeah, but I just still think he's not the best fit there. I don't know. It just seems like they'll have killer minutes. No, I like it for the Thunder because they're going to be able to say 2 years from now, look at this lineup with J-Dub and Topic, and then we can sub Topic out and bring Shea back in. I just don't love it for Topic because I feel like it's awesome for 12 minutes a game, but he seems like a guy who could play way more than 12 minutes a game.
He cuts his ceiling down because
that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we look at all of the intel that came out about the Josh Giddey situation, and all the reports were that OKC came to Josh Giddey and said, "Hey, we want you to come off the bench." Josh Giddey said, "I'm not interested in doing that," and then they went and made the Caruso for Giddey exchange. So I guess the thought process here is like, what if there was an alternate universe where Josh Giddey was okay with coming off the bench? And I guess that's the idea moving forward with Topic. But yeah, definitely not like something they needed, but also like,
no, I agree.
What do you get the guy that has everything?
It's like, I love it for the Thunder. I just don't love it for Topic himself as much. But yeah, one other team that I feel like could be a winner or could be a loser, and this is completely irrational. Just the moment he was picked, I was like, damn, he should have gone number one. When I saw how much Cody Williams looked like Jalen Williams, I was like, damn, dude. Did everyone fuck up?
No,
It kind of gave me like TJ Watt, like when TJ Watt was in the NFL draft, and they're like, yeah, he's JJ Watt's brother. He's going to go 14. I was like, is JJ Watt's brother? Shouldn't he go number one?
Yeah, I really like what the Jazz did.
Yeah, they also pick up Collier at the very end. Like Collier, could be a huge bust. To be the number one high school guy and then end up 29 is a massive drop. I don't know if we've seen a drop that big since like a Harry Giles, right?
Yeah, very like Scalabissier coated fall.
But I mean, I like the Jazz just swinging.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not swing?
There's I would be really surprised if Lowry was on the team 2 years from now. So if one of these guys can pop and be like the reason you're selling tickets, I think that's a huge win. And then also put yourself in the scenario where you can get Cooper Flagg or Ace Bailey next year. I think Trader Danny's doing just fine.
You said Lowry, and I was in my head. I was like, Lowry? When the hell did Kyle Lowry get there? But
what do you guys think about the market into the Sixers?
I don't even.
He followed Embiid.
Hey, I mean, why not? That would be such a win for the Sixers. Okay, my thing that I didn't like, Pistons. What are we doing? Ron Holland on a team that has no one of the people that they've drafted recently can shoot at all. I realize that they don't have much going for them anyways. So like, why are you drafting for fit? But how can you ever know what any of these guys do if none of them have space to play?
Here's the Ron Holland pick is okay in a vacuum. He absolutely has the highest upside. So if you're the Pistons, you won like 15 games this year. You take the guys regardless of position. The jump shot is the biggest question. We talked about that before. Here's why I think they took Ron Holland. This is a completely new front office, and I know I mentioned this before. The new front office legitimately might not be in love with any of these guys. Right? They might view Cade as he's not our guy. We don't like he's this is year 3 or 4 of Cade, and he's won 15 games every year. So how good is he really? Right? So everything might be on the table with Detroit. There's a lot of risk, and this will take time. But if you're clearly not trying to win right now if you're Detroit because you just paid Monty Williams $65 million to get the hell out of the door. So it's like.
And they're still paying Dwayne Casey.
I'm with you. I think a mistake a lot of NBA teams make a lot of the times is they'll play really bad with a young roster, and they'll be like, well, we were young. And it's like, guys, we see young teams succeed. It just means your young players are trash.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily
Like, just that's the truth of the matter.
and I don't necessarily think that every player on the Pistons is bad, but I just think the front office coming in, they're like, well, you know what? These aren't our guys. Let's go get the guys that we like. And if Ron Holland is a guy we like, he theoretically has the highest upside in the entire draft. Like if he can get a jump shot, he is easily the highest ceiling player in the draft.
Yeah, no, he is. His
And it's not even
ceiling's
close.
Sky high. I'm just thinking, like, if you don't structure the team in a way where he can at least get what he's able to get right now, I don't see how he succeeds.
Oh, he's absolutely nobody in
Because
that Pistons team.
Asur, 18% from three. Duran, obviously not a shooter at all. Ivy, we still haven't seen Ivy be able to succeed, and now he has another non-shooter next to him. You trade for Quentin Grimes. In 6 games on the Pistons last year, he shot 14% from three. It's just like, I don't see the ecosystem, how it can work unless, like you said, they start trading away some of these pieces. And I mean, you're basically trading any of these guys at the low point of their value.
Yeah, I mean, the Pistons are doing their best 2018 Magic impersonation. Load up on wings who can't shoot or athletic and call it a day.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like I agree. Like there's no structure for this Detroit team, but I also like think about it. Like if you're the new front office, again, like I said, I keep bringing this up. You're not married to any of these guys, so you might just sell everything, and it's like year one of a rebuild. If you're starting with this front office, is never going to look good.
Yeah, that's very true.
They also don't even have a head coach yet. So, okay, I think we need to talk about one more pick in the specifically, and then I kind of want to go through each of our favorite teams, get like the quick how we're feeling on that. But first, we haven't talked at all. Zaccharie Risacher went number 1 out of France to the Hawks.
He did.
What can we get from this pick? Like, do you think it informs what the Hawks are looking to do this offseason? Is it just a pure upside swing?
I don't even know if he's going to start on this Atlanta team if they don't change much. I don't know. I don't really know what they're going to really get out of Risacher. It seems like he's more of a play finisher, which I guess is a nice fit next to a super dominant guard. But I just don't really like that the team is still molded around the Trae Young super heliocentric attack.
Yeah, I mean he's gonna have a 3-and-D role early, which seems like every other Atlanta Hawks draft pick. You know, there's just no upside to this pick. Like the theoretical like ceiling for him is like a high-end creator, but it's like,
I mean, is it?
He didn't.
And
He's
that's what I'm
not.
saying.
He's not
It's like-
averaging a lot of assists. I don't know. I think. Yeah, it's kind of like what you're saying. I feel like in theory, Atlanta's like lob threat and 3-and-D guys around
Yeah.
Trae, but it's like their offense is just so the same thing every possession, and it's so difficult for these 3-and-D guys to really like, progress playing in that system. And I don't know. I feel like they need to move on from Trae.
But also like
If they want a guy like Risacher to hit a ceiling, it's not going to be playing stand in the corner ball.
No, it's like when this to me is like when James Harden went on like that super tear in 2018, 2019, where it was like everybody on that team was super old. They're all 3-and-D guys. None of them were trying to get better. This Hawks team is trying to like replicate that, but everybody on that team is young, so they should theoretically all be trying to get better, and they are unable to do that.
See, I think a guy like this, like best case scenario, he's like a Trey Murphy kind of guy that probably has a little bit less athleticism. And I feel like he probably fits best next to a guy like Trey because I don't want him creating. Like I kind of do want him just standing in the corner and shooting. And this is our first overall pick.
Which is crazy because that's like for a player, like if I'm the number 1 overall pick, I have to have some sort of fucking ego, like objectively. And so for me, you're telling me I'm the number 1 pick, I'm going to go stand in the corner for 48 or 36 minutes a game? Get the hell out of here. Like,
Kevin O'Connor from The Ringer also had a really interesting tweet that I didn't know this about Risacher, but apparently, so he shot 48% from 3 over his first 34 games last season, and then he shot 29% from 3 over his final 31 games. So it's like, can this guy even really shoot? Like, that's the one thing that I've kind of been led to believe is the for sure, like, I'm getting this out of my number 1 pick, and even that's still a question.
yeah, I mean, the guys go through slumps, but it's what's so crazy is just like we talked about this pre-show where like once you got to like 10 through 30, every guy was like, this guy, we can see him contributing. We can see like the value in this guy, most of them. But 1 through 10, our problem is we're comparing it to the 1 through 9 of years past, and it's like we're taking Zaccharie Risacher number 1, and this dude's like the 13th best player in last year's draft, maybe. It's like, are you like? It's stinky.
Yeah, it's a really weird comparison in that regard. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like Risacher he's almost destined to just like if he averaged like less than 8 points, I wouldn't be shocked.
Oh no, I would be low key kind of surprised if he averaged over double digits.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I think that's a weird pick for Atlanta. I know we mocked them Clingan, who ended up going 7. But yeah, I don't know. This is like what you said. It's like DeAndre Hunter. It's like they're just constantly drafting
AJ Griffin.
Yeah,
Jalen Johnson.
Like,
that's Jalen Johnson is a solid 4. It's like, where's this guy playing?
Yeah, they've had different levels of success drafting the same player. They've drafted not that every player is the same. Obviously, everyone has their own intricacies, but it's just I don't know, man. Is this what we're gonna see? Trae Young, Capella, Trae Young on Yaku pick and rolls with these guys spacing, and the team wins 42 games again? Like, where are we going?
I think the problem that we all have is not necessarily with Risacher going 1. Obviously, with this draft, we understand the lack of talent. But I think we understand how the Atlanta Hawks play around Trae Young, so we can see he's going to fit in this certain role. And it's like, well, then why the hell would you draft this guy number 1, knowing he's just going to be a PJ Tucker? So it's
I do have kind of a problem with them picking number 1 because it's like it seems like you're keeping Trae Young now and you're going to trade DeJounte Murray, which is fine. Like I understand why organizationally you might have to do that. Trae's such a big star, but if you're doing that based on the roster that you have right now, why aren't you drafting like a good backcourt partner with Trae? Like a Stephon Castle, he's on the board. You can literally choose anyone.
Yeah.
Or like you're obviously not in love with your big men depth, and there's a bunch of big men on the board.
Yeah.
Atlanta's real problem, and this doesn't solve it, is like they need to find a way to balance out their offense, and I don't think they had a real answer in this draft to do that. So there's that, but like that's just the real issue with Atlanta is like they just need to they honestly need to find a way to get a player who's better than Trae Young, so that person can come in day 1 and be like, all right, Trae, we're gonna lower your usage by 12.
Yeah.
That's what they really need. But I don't know how Atlanta's ever going to get that. I don't know what their pathway is to acquiring, unless Atlanta somehow is all of a sudden, next year, like Risacher looked way better than everyone thought. Jalen Johnson still looks really good. Okongwu's hella switchable. Somebody trade us a superstar and we're going to try to. But even with the tax apron now, that's almost impossible.
What's interesting is I almost think, and I'm not saying this because I want this to happen, but I almost think this team needs Trae Young to get hurt for an extended period of time and then have everybody step up and play in this certain way. Remember how when Carmelo Anthony got hurt and Jeremy Lin stepped in and Knicks started playing like a team and they started really playing basketball, and then Melo comes back and the dynamic is weird, but like they understand how to play without him.
Yeah.
That was like the most successful
stretch
version of that Melo Knicks tenure.
Yeah, Atlanta might be stuck with Trae because of the tax apron stuff. I know everyone's, myself includes, always like move on from Trae, figure out what you're going to do, but it's just really hard with today's CBA.
If I'm him, I'm calling San Antonio. I'm doing whatever I can to get off this damn contract. I'm getting him into San Antonio because it doesn't matter. Like if I'm Atlanta, it just depends on what you want to do as Atlanta. Like if you're just trying to compete and be mediocre, okay, keep this whole team together for the next 7 years and then rebuild. But if you're trying to win, like this ceiling isn't. You're a second round team at best. Maybe.
I mean, I guess they're just like, please, Joel Embiid, please get tired.
The Hawks?
Please, yeah, why not?
He's not going to play for Atlanta.
Hey, if you trade for him, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he wants it.
Joel Embiid would strangle Trae Young if he had to sit there and just be a play finisher for 38 minutes a game.
Oh my God. Okay. All right, so a lot of other stuff has happened away from the draft. Obviously, we had the giant Knicks trade for Mikal Bridges. We had a Rockets and Nets pick swap trade. The Wizards and Blazers made a weird trade. Bam Adebayo re-signed at $166 million 3-year max. The Warriors are interested in trading for Paul George and trading away CP3 and Wiggins. DeRozan looks like he's going to be hitting free agency. Where do you guys want to start? I guess we should start with the Knicks trade.
We got to start with the Knicks trade. I see James yesterday and says, I don't like it.
Yeah, I didn't love it.
Here's the thing. If you're going to make a swing and you trade pretty much your entire draft capital for the next decade, and you trade for Mikal Bridges, you better win.
Yeah,
you better win.
There's like a lot of memes. It's like the Knicks have created the greatest role player team of all time, and I'm a little worried. that's where we're kind of going here. I mean, I didn't like it because I just think Mikal and OG is just, I don't like redundancy. It's one big thing I've noticed is like the Celtics are probably the one exception team to that with redundancy because it's just so overwhelmingly talented. But like, I don't know, you're about to pay OG $36 million this season. And now you've got Bridges. Like, I don't know. I just don't think that, like, in a vacuum, I thought they way overpaid.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
I agree that they way overpaid.
Absolutely.
But I think you're way overestimating the redundancy. Like, what's the one thing you can never have enough of?
Switchable wings.
Shooting
Switchable wings
and defense. That's what these guys do. These guys are not guys. It's not like a Sun situation where the redundancy is like on ball, pull up mid-range scoring. These guys, like that's a redundancy that is really hard to get over.
But it's redundancy in the sense that the offense isn't going to change. It's still going to be super Brunson heavy. And I felt like one thing that was the problem with the Knicks last year was like when they got into stretches where Brunson went cold, like they looked like a complete mess on offense. But and if you're going to be playing Mikal and now Hart's playing less minutes, like honestly, what really saved them a lot of the time was Hart getting offensive rebounds. Like I don't know, man. I think this could backfire in a way we're not expecting.
Do you think that this is a weird way to look at it, but like, do you think that Jalen Brunson, when he gets in that cold stretch, like Mikal Bridges is not a 1A guy, but Mikal Bridges can create his own shot. And he can do things off the dribble. He can be a 1A guy for stretches. Do you think Jalen Brunson, when he gets to those cold stretches, and I don't mean this to slight anybody else on that Knicks team, would be more willing to give the ball to Mikal Bridges or do actions with Mikal Bridges and get off the ball because he's Mikal Bridges and because he's his friend and because he's seen this guy dominate?
Maybe, but also I think the missing piece we're forgetting is Randall.
Well, I was going to say, and we haven't seen Randall didn't play in the playoffs. So it's like...
I guess what I just don't like is like OG has to start. Brunson has to start. One of the bigs has to start. Randall has to start. So now that fifth spot is Mikal. So now Hart and DiVincenzo are like playing less minutes. I don't know. I think not having Hart be a kind of integral part of this team could hurt them more than it could help them, to be honest. I'm pretty worried about that.
I mean, I think I'm not worried. I think OG and Mikal complement each other on defense like so well. I really don't think like defensive role wise there's redundancy there, and it makes them just like this.
I'm not worried about it on defense. I'm worried about it on offense.
Well, and then you've got Randall. Like you talk about the playoffs where it was like they kind of didn't have a curveball, but Randall is a guy that he's going to get the least amount of defensive attention that he's had since he's been in New York. With OG, now with Mikal on the court, and DiVincenzo has a different reputation now. Hart has a different reputation now. I think like these are all these Villanova guys are so scalable, and from what I've seen, they're cool with it.
I just feel like they needed to get someone who has a little bit more on-ball playmaking. I just don't see I think you guys are really underestimating how if you take away 36 minutes of just tenacious offensive rebounding, how much that could hurt this team because it's not going to change the structure of their offense.
But Julius Randle,
so they're going to be still prone to these cold stretches. I still think even with Randall, they're still going to be prone to these cold stretches.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting because Hartenstein's probably gone. I don't think they can resign Hartenstein. If they can, great.
That's an interesting
because he apparently wants to come back.
That I'll lay out what basically needs to happen. So this deal is not official yet, but the deal as reported would hard cap the Knicks at the first apron.
Yeah.
But if the Knicks can include 2 minimum contracts in this deal, then they would be hard capped at the second apron instead because they would be sending out more money than they were receiving. And then they could very easily re-sign Isaiah Hartenstein to basically the contract that we thought. So that's a very interesting wrinkle that we'll see how that plays out.
What deal were we referring to that would cap them? I'm sorry.
Mikal Bridges to the next trade.
Okay.
So they would have to include, I think it's like Jeffries and some, I don't know.
I don't know why you wouldn't do that then.
Minimum. The one that are the Nets cool with it? That's the basic
They can have another second round pick. I
mean,
you've already traded everything else. You just got 5 second round picks from Oklahoma City. Just reroute some of those.
Yeah, low-key, the Knicks do have weirdly still a lot of picks to play around with. They're not great picks, But even next draft, they have
I guess-
2 first-round picks and two second-round picks.
I guess the question that I'd ask you is like in a vacuum, like knowing that like your top 9 are Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, and Isaiah Hartenstein, and then Miles McBride. That's a pretty
Really
tough
fun.
9.
I think
that's a tough 9 to go to war
I don't
with.
want to make it seem like I think this trade makes them worse. I think it makes them better. I have them second in the East. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised come day one I picked them to win the East.
Especially
Because I was kind of feeling that way around the finals anyway. But I don't know. I still do think, though, this doesn't structurally change their offense enough. And that's just my one worry is I still think they're going to be prone to cold stretches because it still seems like it's going to be a lot of Brunson ball. And Mikal, because he doesn't have the most on-ball dribble juice, is just he doesn't change the structure of the offense. And I still think they're going to be prone to cold stretches.
Do you think that would like require like the actual like Knicks offense would have to like get less heliocentric, like more
I think they're going to
egalitarian?
have to try to
Spread
balance it
around.
out with Randall a little bit more. I don't know. That's just I was super high on the OG trade. I love that they brought OG back. I do love on defense again. I love having both those guys on defense and Josh Hart. I guess
Every one of those guys in that rotation is a dog on defense.
Yeah.
All 9.
yeah, and it's just with Tibbs, like with the big minutes. Like I'm just worried we get to like, is he actually going to balance out the minutes, or is Hart going to play like 12 minutes?
Here's the misconception that I found out. Until the team started getting injured, not a single player in that team was in the top 10 minutes.
Okay.
So that was obviously Tibbs has a reputation for running his guys on the ground, and once the injuries happened, he put Josh Hart in a damn near a coma. But like up until those injuries hit, he was bad. I mean, it wasn't 40, but it was 38.
Because the thing with
36.
Hart was like at the end of the season became a way better shooter. He had he literally told the story about how his wrist clicked on his jump shot, and then literally since that moment his 3-point percentage got better, and he was a great shooter in the playoffs. And you're paying him $18 million. I guess my thing is like, I don't know. I'd rather, if I was the Knicks personally, I'd rather bet on Hart continuing to be the same guy and trade for somebody who I think can offer a different wrinkle. Because I just don't think Mikal offers a wrinkle to the offense.
What would you have traded instead? What would you have looked for?
It's hard to say without knowing who's available, but
Assuming everybody in the NBA is available for that package.
I would have just banked on Philly fucking up and going all in for Embiid.
Embiid.
Yeah.
I think Mikal Bridges makes him better, and I think we talked about this, but 6 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges
Yeah,
is
6 round picks.
It's a lot of picks.
That is a lot.
It's a lot of picks.
And it's like, to me, that's an Embiid-type package. So I get that.
But I mean, we are thinking those are probably not going to be great picks. And I do think Mikal Bridges' like second side playmaker equity is like being a little undervalued right now, just with like how it looked last season in Brooklyn. That was really rough, but like especially like at the end in Phoenix, right before he was traded for KD, he started doing a lot more of that, playing off Devin, creating on the weak side. Like I think now that his role is scaled down, he'll be able to show those things a lot more. Like he does have pull-up shooting in his bag. He's like a pretty good connective passer. And especially like with like a post player, I think he was always pretty good about being able to get DA the ball in his spots, and getting those spots are the same kind of areas that Julius Randle occupies a lot of the time. So I'm very optimistic on this fit, and I could see myself picking the Knicks.
He goes back to like it's almost like he goes back to like the Suns' role in the sense where like Jalen Brunson is the guy. Mm-hmm. You have Randall, who's your post guy, and he can be that theoretical third, second option where like I think him playing in Brooklyn as the unquestioned 1A guy helps him so much because now he knows how to do that. But now he can do it without having the pressure of being guarded by, the Jaden McDaniels or like the number one guy on the team. He's going to get guarded by like the third, or at least the second best wing defender.
My other thing I think of is like when Bojan Bogdanovic was hitting his threes in the playoffs before he got hurt. Those I think he did it in 2 games where he was really effective. It was like impossible. It was really, really hard to beat the Knicks. And when you're swapping essentially 1-for-1 Mikal Bridges for Bojan, that just like the math starts getting really hard on how to beat them.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the Knicks are a lot better. I just don't think it's this home run trade for the Knicks that I think it's portrayed to.
No, I think like getting Mikal Bridges is good. Trading 57 picks is bad. So like it's okay.
Yeah. There is disaster.
If you win a championship, I don't care if you mortgage 45 straight drafts. You win one championship, it's worth it all.
Yeah. Hey, I've got that tattooed on my back right now.
Yeah, I don't. See, I actually don't even know if there's disaster potential though. Just this team is going to be really, really good.
But you don't know what the NBA looks like in 5 years.
That's true. You don't.
You
You don't know if the CBA is going to ban you from having more than 2 players making over 10.
Yeah.
Next year. The way the fucking
Or if
the way
Wemby
these.
just blocks out the sun.
Yeah, I don't know. All right. Another interesting trade. I think it was related. Brooklyn is receiving their own 2026 first from Phoenix, and Phoenix is getting Phoenix's 27 first and the 2025 right to swap the Houston OKC pick for the 25 Suns. So basically, just to recap, Brooklyn is planning on tanking. They needed their own pick back. Houston thinks Phoenix is going to suck in 2027, so they're getting that pick.
I mean, if you're the Nets, you just trade away your best player, so why not try to get your picks back?
Yep.
You're theoretically assuming that you're going to be worse than Phoenix will be because you're betting on your own downfall than someone else's. And you can't control someone else's destiny, but you sure as hell can control your own. So I guess I get it. For Houston, I don't understand it as much unless you're betting on Phoenix being worse in 3 years than Brooklyn is next year. But
So it's interesting. It's the 26 Brooklyn pick, not the 25 Brooklyn pick.
oh, so it's not even the Cooper Flag draft. Oh, never mind. Then I like this for Brooklyn way more than I like this for Houston still.
Yeah, this is a weird one.
No, I think they got back their swap for next year as well.
Houston got the right to swap a Houston/OKC for a 25 Suns first.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me because that swap is going to be theoretically Houston's going to get better. Oklahoma City is a top 5 team in the NBA.
Well, so Houston wants the right to swap their pick with the Suns if they end up being a better team than the Suns.
Oh yeah, no, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
That whole trade was confusing outside of understand the Nets side of it.
I think that trade doesn't happen without the Mikal Bridges trade. I think the Mikal Bridges trade is what Brooklyn now says, okay, now that we're tanking, we it's almost like they probably wouldn't have done one of these trades without the other. So I think they had them lined up at the same time.
Absolutely. It would be really funny if you know how nothing's officially yet, these trades could all fall through as if Houston was like, you know what? No.
Yeah,
we're gonna pull this back.
Brooklyn does get their 2025 pick.
That's what
Oh, it is 25.
Yeah.
Okay, I had a typo.
And 26.
They get both.
of
Okay,
them.
okay.
Yeah, so that makes sense. You get Cooper Flag and I know we're projecting, but it's like AJ DeBonsta theoretically, which is well done by Brooklyn.
Yeah, so it's basically they get 2 of their picks and they traded 3 picks, 2 of which are the Suns' 25 and 27 picks. And it's like, yeah, why not? I think at least you can push that further down the road if you're the Rockets and you get an extra pick out of it.
Yeah, I mean, getting cost-controlled assets too is, especially once the Rockets have a lot of young talent. People aren't realizing that, and once those guys start getting paid, either people are going to get pushed out or you're going to have to get young guys and that's what those picks can.
I mean, Green and Şengün are both extension eligible this offseason. They don't have to get extended, but they can get very, very expensive very quickly.
Jabari is the next year.
Yeah.
So it's they're 3 of their 6 young guys are ready to go.
Yeah, Houston's in a really good spot, even though they're going to have to pay everybody. Weird trade. Wizards traded Deni Avdija for the 14th pick in the draft and Malcolm Brogdon. This was a weird trade because I assumed it was like a Deni is up for an extension. They don't want to pay him. Deni already was extended on a 4-year, $55 million. But the way they structured Denny's contract is it's a declining contract. So in year 1, it's like $13 million. In year 4, it's like $9 million. So, I mean, the Deni contract is insanely good. I'm pretty low on Deni myself. I'm not a huge Deni Avdija guy. I still think it's a weird trade. I still don't really get it for Washington as much.
Oh, it's absolutely. I don't understand it for Washington unless Washington that was in love with someone in this draft and they end up taking Bub Carrington. So if you love Bub Carrington, maybe that's why you do it.
But they did it before the
Yeah, they
draft.
didn't know he was going to be there.
But that's so. I mean, unless you just wanted more swings at the
I
more bites
wonder
at the apple.
if the real thing is they're viewing it not as we're trading Deni Avdija for 14 and Brogdon. We're trading Deni Avdija for 14 and whatever we get for Brogdon. Because Brogdon's on an expiring.
Well, they also got the Blazers 2029 or a 2029 first round pick as well.
Oh, they got 2 firsts?
I did
Yeah.
not see that report.
I didn't either.
Yeah, so the Washington Wizards are trading Deni Avdija to the Portland Trailblazers for Malcolm Brogdon and the 14th pick tonight and a 2029 first. The Blazers are sending the second most favorable
Wait, are there
of their
protections?
2029 first round pick and 2 second round picks in the deal for they got that this is why they did it.
Washington made out like bandits.
Wait.
An extra pick last night.
Why was I swear I'm like
I thought it
looking
was
at
just
everything,
14.
and I didn't see any of that reported. Okay, yeah, Washington made out like a bandit.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, I pulled that from ESPN this morning.
Portland, what are you doing?
And basically, from Washington's perspective, it's like Deni's like, regardless of what you think about him, he's one of the best players on your roster. You're trying to tank next year, so you can get rid of him, a good player. I think they'll probably move off Brogdon, maybe get a first for that. They get Bub Carrington, who has one of the highest ceilings in the draft, in my opinion. And then you get another pick and first and seconds.
So they got 2 firsts, including Bub Carrington, and 2 seconds for Deni.
I believe so, yeah.
Holy, what the hell? Oh my god, that changes everything.
That is insane.
Yeah, that is. What kind of world do we live in where we're trading 6 picks for Mikal Bridges and 3 picks for Deni
Their
Avdija?
trade destroyed the NBA. It ruined the NBA.
I mean, it's just like...
You know what's weird too? I feel like with the apron restrictions, I feel like the teams that are trading away the assets have way more leverage now because they can be like, look, we're one of the only teams that actually can trade with you.
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
It seems like, I mean, I'm not an NBA GM, but to me, from the outside, it seems like these teams have a lack of understanding of the environment they're in, which is understandable. It's a new CBA.
Trade Zach LaVine,
Well,
please, dear
also,
God.
it's interesting that all the second apron teams, they're pretty much off the board from trades in general.
Exactly.
to
So
trade
all
down.
these teams, now if you're a team that has all the draft picks, you're like, look, man, OKC over there, they're not even allowed to trade their draft picks, so you have to trade with me. So I don't have to give you shit.
Okay, can we please talk about Portland drafting Donovan Clingan with the 7th pick in the draft and what that means for my good friend DeAndre Ayton?
Hit the road, Jack.
Wow, the fall from great. Like, they have to trade DA, right? Or like, why would
Or
you
Robert
not?
Williams or
Guys,
someone.
it's Wizards West. Let them be weird.
Wizards West is crazy. But I feel bad for Donovan Clingan. No.
So I pulled.
I was thinking about it because they've got Deni Avdija. They've got a point guard who's really inefficient. They've got a roster that doesn't make sense. Red in the colors. Mm-hmm. On the coast.
They got a shooting guard that's older than their revealing timeline.
That's true. But you know what?
And they have a power forward that should be on a contender, but is stuck on their team. They're Wizards West.
That's so bad.
DeAndre Ayton, he's under 25. He has started 351 games in his career. There are only 4 people who meet those thresholds and had never made an All-Star game. It's him, Miles Turner, Steven Adams, and Jonas Valanciunas.
All big guys from the 2010s.
All big guys from the 2010s, which I was very surprised by. I guess that's kind of draft age. But
That's
boy,
actually pretty good company.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay.
I mean,
all good players.
all 3 of those guys are good players.
But DeAndre Ayton has by far the biggest contract at that age of any of those
draft
guys.
capital investment. Yeah.
What a disaster. What a disaster.
We need Donovan Ayton. I don't know what, like, if this doesn't spur him to, like, lock in, I don't know what will.
The problem is he's already achieved what he set out to achieve.
he's just a very aloof player. He doesn't play very hard. I mean, this is probably like Ayton's. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think Ayton's going to get traded. I just think he's going to play off the bench now.
I hope so. I hope Donovan Clingan doesn't get stuck in a logjam because obviously Rob Williams is still there and he only played 6 games, and obviously Ayton and then now Clingan. I hope that
Twin Towers?
I just hope that there's not like some. The problem with Portland is one of those teams that doesn't have a direction. Obviously, they're trying to rebuild.
Portland is a historically good team. They're usually one of the teams that is in the West playoff mix year in and year out throughout the history of the NBA. But I wasn't kidding when they were trending toward Wizards West.
Do you remember how like Orlando and like right after Dwight left, so pretty much Paulo got drafted. It was very like all these players got drafted Orlando, and it was like, yeah, we forgot about them because they went to Orlando and they were doing nothing. None of them developed, for whatever reason. They kept drafting the same player over and over again in terms of like the wings that can't shoot and guards that can't shoot, and they just. I hope that Portland doesn't end up like that because they just keep drafting guys at 6 and 7 and that are good pieces around a superstar around this, but you don't have that superstar, so the whole team just doesn't gel.
So the Washington Wizards?
Yeah, like I like even like the Wizards with Beal, like that team had no direction like after John Wall got hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I don't want to say Portland is like this inept team like Washington because I think if Scoot was just better, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is Scoot was really bad as a rookie, and there was not a lot of encouraging signs even toward the end of the season.
Yeah. Also, Shaden Sharp just cannot stay healthy. He's been awesome in spots, just can't stay healthy. Ant is just I don't know what to even do with him. He's like expensive now, but he's still young, and he's in the way of like their like most highly thought of prospects.
I think he's got to go. Not in a bad way, but like it's if you really want to see what Scoot and Sharp are made of, you got to get him out of there.
Yeah, I think before we totally dump on Portland, I think they start Clingan, who's a much more high motor big, someone who's gonna be much more willing to run up and down the court. Scoot, I don't know. He didn't look like the same athlete, so maybe Scoot was playing with some injury that he just didn't want to disclose. He seems like one of those guys who wouldn't be like, "Oh, I'm injured." He seems
We
like
were
a guy
both super high on Scoot.
Yeah, I and even if like Scoot's jump shot never comes around, like, can you at least look somewhat like one of the Thompson twins a little bit?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to totally give up on Scoot, but I am very low on like Portland's general direction right now.
I hope Portland sells off all the vets. Like they didn't do it last year, and to me, like if you're a rebuilding team, you play your young guys, let them learn, and they didn't do that.
It's just really hard to trade a Jeremy Grant to a team like the Lakers with the whole tax implications.
Well, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
They
just traded off Malcolm Brogdon. They just included 3 picks in it.
Well, I mean, like they shouldn't have signed Jeremy Grant to the contract, especially after they knew Damian Lillard wasn't coming back. But that's a whole nother. That's what I'm saying. This whole front office is just seems very inept.
Yeah, there's a lot of signs that Portland is trending toward being a goofball team. Kind of, I like those cool Blazers uniforms.
Yeah,
Portland's a cool city.
Rip City, the Rose Garden, shout out. Now it's called the Moda Center.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like my entire life Portland's always been like a playoff team. except
But
for
you
the
know
last
what?
couple
Let's
years.
not act like they haven't been low key inept for a while. Like
Since
they
2016.
were never able to build a real contender around Damian Lillard. They were never able to build a real contender around LaMarcus Aldridge. I mean, the last time we saw them as like a true contender was the early 2000s, and then before that, pretty much the early 90s.
I don't know if that's fair because, if we're going to defend teams like the Clippers, I mean, they had that team with Aldridge and Odin and Roy that I think they were like 60-10 over like a 70-game stretch at one point. Like they were absurdly good. They just got hurt.
And that was another one. And on top of it, like it's not like the Dame and the Marcus Aldridge Blazers were bad either. I mean, they were.
Yeah, they
only
made
had
a
one
Western
real year.
Conference Finals. Granted, they were like one of those conference finals teams we see every 3 years in either conference where we're like,
Really?
what?
Like the Pacers this year?
Yeah, like the Pacers this year, the Hawks that one year, the Mavs, not this year, but the Mavs 2 years ago.
Handshake, you got swept.
Yeah.
I think what was really hard for them is like Dame is like, if Steph didn't exist, Dame would have been the era defining point guard, but there was just a better version of him on a better team. And that was always going to be tough for them.
Is that what would have happened, or would LeBron just be the Tom Brady of the NBA?
No, I mean, LeBron would have kept
You know?
winning, but I think we all would have viewed Dame a little bit differently because he would have been the point guard who's shooting logo threes consistently. And it would have been him by himself doing it.
When we think of point guards throughout the eras, we go from like Magic to Isaiah to Iverson to Kid to Steph to
CP.
Nash.
But even that's what I'm saying. Like Damian Lillard is going to be one of those guys that, and I'm going to say this, and I don't mean this literally, but he's going to be one of those guys that when we talk about the best players of a generation, he's going to be like forgotten.
Yeah, he's the Clyde Drexler of his generation.
Or like
Except
Paul
he
George.
never
like
had
Anthony.
nearly the success of Clyde Drexler. Clyde Drexler was the best player without really a co-star that went to 2 finals.
Yeah, I mean, Clyde was like, listen, I think Portland's much. I don't know why. I don't know enough about basketball to understand why they didn't re-sign LaMarcus Aldridge in 2015. They lost like LaMarcus.
They probably tried.
They lost LaMarcus, Wesley Matthews, Nicholas. But they lost the whole team in 1 year except Dame and CJ, and they still went to the playoffs next year because of Dame.
Yeah,
But-
I personally am really high on Dame all the time. I think he's a really good player, but yeah, I mean they didn't really build the greatest team around him at any point. But yeah, maybe Portland is secretly inept, and Dame is actually just so
Save
good
that.
that he masked their flaws.
Yeah.
That's possible.
It's like KG,
And the Timberwolves back
but
in the day.
never went to Boston.
All right, some quick hitters. Bam Adebayo, 3-year max, $166 million. Makes sense. I feel like this is the quietest max contract signing in NBA history. No one has said a word about it.
I think we're getting to a point where like we're almost numb to that money.
Yeah.
Like now, like 3 years, 166. That's nothing. 5 years, $300 million. Whoa! That's when
Yeah.
we start getting. We see those numbers.
I think a lot could change in the next week, but the reporting is now that Jimmy's just going to play out his Heat contract, so no extension, no trade.
He also said that he's like, people around him are saying like he's gonna have a career year. So it'd be crazy if Jimmy Butler comes out and just dominates, and then like maybe the Heat win a title, and then he's just like, yeah, I'm fucking out of here.
It is
Sick of
very
this.
Heat coded for him to like play out this contract and then just like leave. Like, is that not so, Dwayne Wade?
I think this is a good move for both sides.
You think it's time for them to move on?
No, but Jimmy has 2 years left.
But I think he
No,
has
it's
a
a player
player
option.
option.
He's staying.
No, it's definitely.
Jimmy doesn't want to leave.
Haven't you seen the photoshops of him next to Embiid in Philly?
Oh, that would be crazy.
But
too.
I think Jimmy wants to be
Paid and respected.
rich. Yeah. And we got to remember with Jimmy Butler, he's a guy, like we talked about earlier, he was drafted at the end of the first round, didn't make like crazy money to start out his career. So like I think this last contract could be something that will be really, really important that he maximizes.
I also think, and I don't mean this in a bad way, I think a lot of great players have this. I think he's got a bit of an ego. And again, I don't mean that as a shot.
Jimmy Butler?
But that's what I'm saying. Like I think he has an ego, and it's like, you don't want to pay me after all I've done for you. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you wouldn't be here without me. Like, you know that very well. He has a big ass ego. Yeah.
I mean,
Pointing at Max,
Maybe
Minnesota
I am
fan.
smoking on some hardcore copium. But all the reporting I've read is that he wants to stay, and Riley's the one who doesn't really want to give him the extension.
I totally think that's true.
But
Yeah, but
that's
who
the
wins
case.
that battle?
Riley's
Riley's always going to win that battle,
Yeah.
but I don't think the Heat are going to trade him this year, which I think is a win for the Heat because I don't really think they're in a great position to trade Jimmy and then all of a sudden start like it's like they almost have too many of these like
good, not great.
good, not great guys. So it's like it's hard to tank when you have that, but it's also hard to add a star to that, especially with the tax apron situation and Bam's crazy big extension now.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. It doesn't seem, especially when you max out Bam, it's like, why trade the guy that makes this team great?
This is an interesting like discourse conversation. It's like I feel like a lot of teams get stuck in this paradigm where our ceiling probably isn't good enough to win an NBA title. But maybe we might, if everything breaks, could win an NBA title, or might be opportunistic and trade for this guy and whatever happens. So once you get to a certain point, it's like, do you just keep at that level until it's a clear decline, or you just blow it up knowing that you're not going to win? And it's such an interesting, because I feel like there's so many teams like that, and it's
Heat,
The Heat,
Warriors,
I think the thing with the
Suns,
Heat, and they're the
Lakers,
weirdest team, is because
Clippers.
everyone says this team doesn't have a final ceiling, but I think for them it was like luck of the draw in terms of like they played probably the two worst teams they could have played coming out of the West during this 5-year stretch, during the 2 years they made it. Like Anthony Davis has owned Bam Adebayo. Nikola Jokic has owned Bam Adebayo. But put him against that Warriors team, and all of a sudden Bam gets to play switchable crazy defense, and they don't really have a good Jimmy Butler stopper. Like, sorry, man, I don't think Andrew Wiggins is stopping Jimmy Butler. I would have
think
liked
so
last
either.
year's Heat versus the previous year's Warriors.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It would have been a much better series.
Much better than Denver.
I think it's so interesting because Draymond is not going to stop Bam, but it's that's your matchup, and Wiggins was on a different level. That final. So he has the best good of a chance as anybody.
I will say Draymond was like low key in his bag in that playoff run. Like he kind of shut down Jokic, and I think he could have done
But
very
it's
well
more to
against
just
Bam.
say like the year after the Lakers finals, the Suns go. They match up better with that Phoenix team than that Lakers team.
Absolutely.
They match
for
up better
sure.
with that Warriors team and this year's Mavericks team than the Denver team. It's just the 2 years they made the finals were the two teams that they really had no shot against. If they had made it any of these other 3 years, they could have maybe won.
Yeah, but unfortunately, you don't get to pick. who
You don't get to
play.
pick, but
I was
think-
gonna say
yeah.
I could say the same thing about the Suns.
Yeah,
The Suns
of
would have
course.
much rather played the Heat than that Bucks team.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that's the whole point with the Heat is I feel like they've lost so badly because of these matchups. When in reality, this team, it's still really unclear every year of this whole Jimmy Butler era. Like, can they be good enough or not?
They made the finals
Twice.
In my opinion, that says in itself
Well,
they're good enough.
I also don't think like people that are saying like when you have Jimmy when you have a certain level of player on your team,
You have to go for it.
and I think Jimmy Butler is a certain level of that player. I just think I think the discourse around the Heat is so interesting because I think the Heat, like when you have a certain level of player on your team, like that player can take over games and can take over series. Jimmy Butler did it 2 years ago. Like he took over 3 straight series, 2.5 straight
Yeah.
series, and it's like you're telling me in this East they can't come out of it. Okay, maybe the Celtics now are a little bit too strong, like objectively. But before this past year, if you told me the Heat made the finals, like I'm not blinking an eye at that.
Okay, 2 other quick hitters. DeRozan looks like him and Chicago are hitting a snag, and he's going to be a free agent. Do you guys have a DeRozan spot?
They not like us. They not like us.
Do you think he's coming? I saw that he might go to the Clippers. I don't. That's weird to me.
Very Clippers player. Very Clippers coded.
I think if the Clippers end up trading Paul George,
That'd be such a
getting
ugly
DeRozan
fit.
in there, I'm not saying it makes them a contender. I'm not saying it's a great fit, but it just feels very Clippers to me.
Paul George really doesn't have many options. It's either I go to Philly, I re-sign, or I force a trade somewhere and I rip that team of their assets.
Yeah, so the reporting is that George wants to stay on the West Coast, and it seems like this Clippers contract snag is being an issue. And the Lakers and Clippers can't trade, right?
Why not?
To apron stuff? I think the apron stuff makes...
I think
they
it's
can't
order
the
of
Clippers-
operations.
The Clippers can't trade one for multiple, right? Because they're in the second apron?
So
But technically-
if it was the exact same dollar amount, they could. So if like
Oh, and I
the
see.
Lakers signed Paul George to exactly how much LeBron makes, they could. But neither one can aggregate contracts, so it would have to be a 1-to-1 thing.
So I know I don't know Paul George Australia. I know the Lakers structured the Rui and D'Lo contracts together to match like a Kyrie level salary. So I don't know if George and Kyrie make the same amount, but I don't know if the Clippers want that.
I think it would have to be done before the LeBron signing, I think.
Because right now, technically, Lakers
And it
have
seems
But
like
also, I don't know what the cap
And it seems like there's also a lot of
there.
animosity between the two front offices.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the Warriors, I guess they're interested in George, but I don't know. I mean, they're another second apron team where it seems like it's probably going to be a little too complicated to make it feasible.
If they cut Chris Paul or like decline this option, then they're not a second every team.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
So then it becomes, can you do it with Wiggins and some other
his
stuff?
$30 million is non-guaranteed.
Yeah.
The reporting though is right now that they want to trade Chris Paul and Andrew Wiggins.
If they get both those off the books and get pieces back, like winning pieces or draft picks, made out like bandits, especially if they trade Chris Paul. Wiggins has some theoretical value because you can, not too long ago he was a final
I
stopper.
love Paul George on the Warriors. Like, I would hate it, but like
For Wiggins?
is that not basically the core of like Steph, Clay, Draymond?
No Clay.
Like, I know, no Clay, add Paul George.
That seems better now.
It's kind of better. It's
Yeah.
kind of the same.
It's different though, because let's see if Paul George is willing to play that type of movement offense. Like, especially, I think the hard part is it's not even is Paul willing to. It's Paul has played 5 straight years in this sluggish yuck of an offense, and now you're gonna, after doing that for 5 straight seasons, you're now gonna just go play Warriors ball. I think that's really hard, even if he's committed to doing it.
That's a good point.
They're gonna have to change. They're gonna have to change their offensive system, and I just don't know if Kerr is gonna want to do that.
It'll be interesting to see.
Where does Bronny get drafted? Yes or no?
Yes,
Yes.
To who?
Lakers.
Lakers.
I will say yes. So it would be 50, 55. Yeah, 55 or 56. Yeah, I'll say yes to the
Who were you
Lakers.
shocked that fell out of the first round? I already know who mine is.
Let's see. Let's look at the best available. Who is yours?
Furphy. He was the best available. I think it's like on that board at like 17, and he just didn't get drafted. I was shocked he didn't get drafted. I thought Timberwolves were going to take him. I got so hyped when that came up. I was like, yeah, that's where he's going.
Yeah, I mean, Furphy definitely up there. I was a little surprised that Kolek fell out. There was a lot of buzz for Kolek.
Especially in Boston.
Yeah, although I do love who
Pritchard.
Boston.
Oh, I love
Boston
Shireman, too.
drafted Shireman. Like, talk about Sam Hauser clone. Like,
Coded pick.
Tyler Smith as well. I was a little surprised.
Yeah, especially if you're taking all these high upside guys. Tyler Smith has
Yeah.
high upside still.
We got anything else?
Hot streak shooting slip.
Let's go.
All right, you want a hot streak, Patrick?
Yeah, I'm on a hot streak. This is one of my favorite weeks of the year. I love draft week. Start of free agency. So much buzz. I can just doom scroll all day long. This is what I consider fun. But I was very happy with the Suns picking up Ryan Dunn. That was like one of my guys in this round. So that's always fun when you like identify a guy that you really like their play style and then your team actually picks him up. And then just like huge week over at Bucket Squad HQ. We're filming an absolutely monster video going to San Diego. So we leave tomorrow, which I'm very excited for that. So I'm on a hot streak.
All right, I'm on a slump.
Oh no.
All right. So last Friday, I drive like 40 minutes to the warehouse to shoot a video. Get out of the car. And I realized I didn't bring my dog's leash. So I drive 20 minutes back, buy a leash, 20 minutes back. So now I've wasted 40 minutes to get my dog a leash because I forgot to bring his leash. And then, an hour later, we find out, you can't actually film here today. It's being used. So I had to cancel my video shoot. So Friday was waste of electricity, waste of money, waste of time. So that was a bummer.
That is a bummer.
That was a bummer. My sleep has kind of sucked. I was telling Patrick this morning, I got a call from Chase Bank when I was in the shower. And they're like, is this a fraudulent activity? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. And then, shooting Slump. Dude, I'm going through my statements. And I found out Adobe was charging me for 2 subscriptions every single month. So,
they love to do that.
So maybe I, have been paid for somebody else's Adobe subscription being in the YouTube business. Hit up everyone who could have been. Nope, no, you don't pay for my subscription. Cool. I don't pay for any subscription. Call Adobe. Adobe's like, there is no record of us charging you on the 25th every month. And I'm like, it's on my statement. And they're like, you're going to have to call your bank. And I'm like, so when I call the bank and they tell me to call you guys, what do I say? And they're like, no, they should be able to figure it out. So Chase is like, this is fraud. We're going to refund you for every single month. And I was just hoping to stop it. So I'm like, that's great. Until this morning, Chase fraud department calls me and they close my account. Now I have to go to the fucking bank and figure out how I can log into my account again.
Come on, Chase.
They froze my bank account this morning.
This is why I don't bank with Chase. It's a bunch of weirdos.
Hey, I'm a very happy Chase customer.
I normally like Chase, but this was really frustrating. There's a lot more to it, but obviously that's something I don't really want to talk about publicly. And then, just sleep wasn't the best. I had some hot streak moments this week. I definitely had a lot of hot streak moments, but I feel like I got to tie a story to my streak or my slump, and the dog leash thing. I just felt really defeated.
Yeah, I understand that. Anytime that you think you're going on like a short trip and then it becomes a like
ordeal,
escapade.
3-stop odyssey is the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm on a hot streak. I think there was some shooting something coded moments. I was part of that ordeal at Friday, and it was. You know what's even better is, did you find out that they didn't even end up shooting that day?
Yep.
Yeah, it was fucking bad. Sorry.
Hey, we were trying our best.
But obviously that was tough. But outside of that, obviously the Bulls drafted Matas. This was a hell of a week. I'm glad they drafted someone with, upside instead of going with Carter or Knecht. As much as they're better, you take a guy with a ceiling. Regardless, that was good.
Thoughts on the Caruso situation?
Yeah, we didn't talk about the Caruso for Giddey.
No comment. No, I mean, listen, if you're not trying to win, go get someone that has theoretical upside. Josh Giddey has more higher theoretical upside than Alex Caruso.
I think Giddey is going to surprise people next year. He was pretty good.
He surprised us this year, but not for what we thought.
No, I think Giddey's going to play way better. I feel like people think he's trash, but his first 2 years in the league were super promising.
I mean, he's a slob wizard, bro. He's a great passer. That was an insane statement, by the way. No, I mean,
it's just the asset play, which is tough.
And then knowing that the Thunder traded 5 second-round picks got 5 second-round picks for Pacome Dedet, it's like, what the hell? We couldn't get another second for whatever. I mean, I'm happy the Bulls did what they did. They're gonna let him go. Hopefully, Levine can get 9 first-round picks from some stupid team, but we'll see.
Hey, we're willing to swap Bradley Beal for him, straight up.
I mean, we'll take some picks, and we'll make it happen.
We've got 2 second-round picks now.
For Levine, at this point, you can have him.
You got yourself a deal.
You can have him.
All right, well, that was Foul Trouble. We'll catch you guys next week. We are going to 1 a week for July up until the season, so we haven't even decided what our 1 a week day will be.
Well, next week it'll be Monday.
Okay, it'll be Monday, and then Monday we will announce what the actual day will be going forward. The rest of the summer, we'll see you guys then. Peace.